Hello and welcome to Global Lens. I'm Parikshit Luthra. These are top global headlines we're tracking. U.S. government is headed for a shutdown, says Vice President J.D. Vance. White House seeks to pin the blame on Democrats who are seeking additional healthcare funding. Several parts of the federal government will close either partially or fully from the 1st of October, with funding set to lapse. U.S. President Trump proposes a 20-point peace plan to end the war in Gaza and return hostages to Israel. Leaders in the Middle East and Europe welcome the proposal. Hamas is studying the plan, which is vague on statehood for Palestine. Indonesia school collapse kills 3 and leaves 100 people hospitalized. Rescue operations are underway, with over 39 people still trapped under the rubble. The two-story building, which was under construction, collapsed while people had gathered to pray. Our top focus this evening: U.S. President Donald Trump has unveiled a 20-point proposal to bring an end to the Israel-Gaza conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accepted the proposal. However, they do want security control for the foreseeable future. Hamas is believed to be studying it. Netanyahu warned that if Hamas rejects the plan or if it accepts and later backtracks, Israel will quote-unquote finish the job by itself, following which Trump said Israel would have his full backing. So what does the proposal entail? According to U.S. President, if both sides agree to it, the war will immediately end. Hamas has to release all remaining hostages, both dead and alive, within 72 hours of Israel's acceptance. In return, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7, 2023. Full aid will be sent into the Gaza Strip, including rehabilitation of infrastructure and hospitals. Israel will neither occupy nor annex Gaza. The U.S. has said it will work with Arab and international partners to deploy a temporary international stabilization force in Gaza. Israeli defense forces will hand over the Gaza territory it occupies to this stabilization force. Under the proposal, Hamas will have no role in Gaza directly or indirectly, and all of its military infrastructure will be destroyed. So who would govern Gaza? It will be under the temporary transitional governance of a committee made up of Palestinians and global experts. This panel will be overseen by a board of peace headed by President Trump. Gaza will become a de-radicalized, terror-free zone. The United States will also establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. However, the plan remains vague on Palestinian statehood. Netanyahu continues to strongly oppose any Palestinian statehood. The Palestinian Authority has welcomed the proposal, calling it a step towards unifying Palestinian land and institutions in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. It added that the plan would open the path towards a just peace based on the two-state solution. Many leaders in the Middle East and Europe have also welcomed the proposal. Netanyahu also reportedly dialed Qatar Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani from the White House to apologize for the Israeli strikes in Doha that targeted Hamas leadership. As per reports, he expressed regret for killing a Qatari security guard in the strikes. Joining us now is Ofir Dayan, Research Associate in the Israel-China Policy Center at INSS. Dayan has also served as an officer in Israeli Defense Forces, and also KP Fabian, former ambassador to Qatar, is joining us on the program. Ofir, if I can begin with you. If Hamas does not accept this proposal now in the next 2 to 3 days, what's going to be the next operation that Israel could launch?
So Israel doesn't need to launch a next operation. There is an undergoing operation happening right now to retake control over Gaza City, where it is believed that is the headquarters of Hamas, where a lot of their command and control centers are, where the vast tunnel network is, and where some of the hostages are believed to be held right now. So the plan suggests that if it is accepted by both sides, the Israeli army, the IDF, will withdraw from Gaza City, the operation that started just a few weeks ago. But if Hamas does not accept this deal, the IDF will continue full force in its operation that it's undertaking right now.
Right. There also seems to be some difference of opinion between Netanyahu and Trump when it comes to the security and securing Gaza for the foreseeable future. Netanyahu was clear
Right.
that he wants security control around the perimeter, and he did not mention any timeline for that. So could you explain that that there is a point of difference in contention?
Look, I'm now speaker for Mr. Trump or Mr. Netanyahu. Let me just say this. Before October 7th, Hamas used the vicinity of the Gaza-Israel border fence to plant explosives and to plant devices that helped it breach the fence on October 7th. So it's a totally rational Israeli demand to have a demilitarized and practically an empty perimeter across Gaza to make sure that Hamas operatives or other terrorist groups like the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and others are not coming closer to the fence again to plant explosives and other devices in the vicinity of the fence.
Right. Let me get in Ambassador Fabian at this point. Ambassador Fabian, do you think this plan is going to be successful? And what about the role of Arab Muslim states in governing and what happens in Palestine for the future? What caught our attention was the praise that Donald Trump showered on Asim Munir and also the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif for supporting his peace plan. Does Pakistan have a role there?
Thank you. Pakistan was one of the 8 Islamic states that met President Trump. Pakistan has cleverly exploited the opportunity, as you know, when on the 9th of September, Israel carried out an attack on Doha. Pakistan Prime Minister was one of the first to reach there. So this is to be expected. But looking at the larger question, I would say that Hamas has no option but to accept it. I mean, they can ask for some changes, but they don't have any option to reject it because the Arab or Islamic states which have been supporting Palestine have accepted it. And as you said, the Palestine Authority has also accepted it. So Hamas has no choice. Also, there is a threat that should Hamas refuse to accept, then Netanyahu will continue with his, now I use plain English, I hope you will pardon me, genocide. And there is no way Hamas can take care of that. So having said that, will this plan work? Well, I think we have to look at it historically because this plan speaks of a Palestinian statehood, which Netanyahu, after returning from Washington, has categorically stated that he would use force to prevent the emergence of a Palestinian state. Now, we have to take that seriously. And another thing is that, when the UK and others recognized the state of Palestine, Israel said, well, we shall do whatever we have to do to erase Palestine from the map. In other words, what they are doing now is dividing the West Bank into 2 and also increasing Israeli settlements there. And it is most surprising and to my mind most regrettable that this deal doesn't say anything about what Israel is doing on the West Bank.
Right.
In other words,
Ambassador Fabian.
Israel is free to do what it wants.
Right. Ambassador Fabian, when it comes to the two-state solution that India had also always been speaking about, what happens to that? This plan is not clear. When it comes to their stand on the two-state solution, Netanyahu has rejected it. What happens to that?
Well, I think we have to look at it historically. That is, David Ben-Gurion permitted violent action, in fact, terrorist action by the Zionists to send the Palestinians into exile. If they didn't run away, they would be killed. So that was terrorism. Secondly, so many agreements have been signed, and I will only mention one, 1993 Oslo Accord, which was signed by Yitzhak Rabin. Netanyahu had opposed it. In fact, Netanyahu had incited people, militants, to murder him. And I say this with full responsibility because in 1995 March, there was a procession where Netanyahu was also there, and he is walking by the side of a coffin where it is written in so many words, this is Yitzhak Rabin. So that is that. And in any case, Liquid Party has said, that all territory between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean belongs to Israel.
Right.
So unless he is forced, he will never reign.
Okay, Ambassador Fabian, I'm going to come to you. Ofir, I know you have a point to make. I'm making one final question to Ambassador Fabian and coming to you for the closing remarks. Ambassador Fabian, what about India? Is it important for India to get involved with this peace plan to some extent? Can India afford to be out altogether?
No, India should not be out altogether. India should support this quote-unquote peace plan because the genocide has to stop. And my view is that Palestinians have to wait for some more time before they can, sort of start campaigning for a Palestinian state. And as regards Hamas, frankly, between you and me, they have said already that they are prepared to accept no role politically or militarily. And last point, Hamas, unlike Israeli propagandists, what they say, Hamas has accepted the state of Israel. They amended their charter, which accepted the 1967 borders for the state of Palestine.
All right. My final questions to Ofir Dayan. Ofir, now, when it comes to the future governance of Gaza, of Palestine, what's going to be the kind of governance structure? Would Israel want to have a complete control or a large say in how Gaza, how Palestine are secured for the future and who runs the place as well?
So I'm first going to answer your question, and then I'm going to address the completely wrong and misleading remarks made by the ambassador. First of all, no, Israel admitted during this conference between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump that Israel is not going to control Gaza for the future. There was an agreement about a transitional government led by President Trump and by Tony Blair and others. So obviously, Israel said it is not going to rule Gaza for the future. Obviously, given the circumstances, given what happened on October 7th, and given what happened in the past 20 years since 2005, when Israel withdrew completely from the Gaza Strip, including digging out the graves of Jews buried in the Gaza Strip, obviously, rockets started flying out of Gaza into civilian areas in Israel. So Israel wants to have a say about the security guarantees it is going to get, that this situation is not going to reoccur. And now I must address the really wrong and misleading claims made by his honorary, the ambassador. Israel is not committing a genocide, that's first of all. There is no criteria for a genocide that this thing meets. It is a war. A war is an unpleasant and really bad occurrence, but it is not a genocide. Second of all, Hamas does not care for the least if there is a genocide, if there's no genocide. Returning hostages said that Hamas took food out of Gazans' hands and ate it in the tunnels while the Gazans are being starved to death. So I really don't think Hamas really cares if there's death for Gazans or not. And the third thing, I assume the ambassador does not read Hebrew. I'm not Mr. Netanyahu's attorney at law, but the coffin did not say Rabin, it said democracy, because it was a protest about sliding out of democratic practices.
All right. Ofir Dayan, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone has their own opinion.
And I wish everyone a peaceful days. And we just started the Jewish New Year, so Shana Tova and a peaceful and quiet New Year.
Wish you all the peace, and we hope that peace arrives and is back in the region as well. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fabian, for
Amen and inshallah
on the program. Thank you very much, Ofir, for being with us.